I think I want to share a little bit how we got into this project, what we did with the results, and also give some of the customer feedback that comes from it. And eventually also want to look a little bit ahead, and I think one of the previous speakers, the two previous speakers already touched on it, where we think the next steps of this kind of research should be going. And you can already see it in the presentation of my, the title of my presentation. It has to do with connecting cars, which we believe is needed and will be there to help further improve the driver behavior. Okay. So maybe just, you all know TomTom, we're one of the leaders in navigation devices. We're entering areas like sports. We're one of the leaders in traffic information, but we also be European leader in fleet management systems. We actually there connect cars already. And this is where we started 4 years ago, and in 4 years a lot of things happened. And that's always interesting of these type of projects. You think that 4 years, but particularly in the business life, it's quick. And I spoke to a few of you, I mean a couple of, actually really 3 people that have 2 babies in the meantime, part of the project, and it's amazing how projects expand in such a period. Also for us, I think we've been entering new areas, and from fleet management we're entering an area where we're actually connecting cars, and we're delivering services also to other service providers so they can build extra applications based on that. So that's a starting point, and that's also I think where we think the future will be. 4 years ago, when we were approached, we actually just launched our first product to help improve, let's say, the driver behavior of our customers. So most of our customers are fleet owners, they're business customers. They have 2, 3 vehicles, or they have 1,000 vehicles. There's all sorts. And we started with a very simple, I think we were one of the few to commercialize an OBD plug that would give information about the vehicle, and then we would give driver feedback on the navigation device, give driver feedback on acceleration events, on steering, on idling, which is an important factor, all kinds of things that we were doing. And we created a score, ecoDriver score, to actually give people feedback on this is how you're doing. So we were there, we did that for 2 years, and then actually it's always thinking about how to go forward, how to move forward. We had a couple of customers participating in this, using these kind of devices, being very happy with it, creating a certain amount of fuel savings as well. But then it's always like, okay, if you're there, how do you get the extra 5% on top of that? Right? How do you continue to improve? We've got customers that want to improve all the time, and that's why we try to support them. So that's actually the point where Professor Carstens came to us, and we thought that's actually a great opportunity for us to more substantialize the work that we've already been doing, understand what it brings, also give a little bit of input on the project from our own experience, but also learn from, let's say, the different angles that the research institutes gives into this project, but also the other private parties that are participating in this. That's why we took it on at the time. And actually last year we were able to introduce a new product which incorporates the first learnings of the ecoDriver project. So we introduced the next version of what we call ecoDriver 360. And it's a holistic approach for our customers to implement a full, let's say, new driving behavior stimulation program for their customers. And it's not just about giving feedback, it starts with the learning, how to teach, educate your drivers. It's coaching, giving feedback to your drivers, how they're doing, immediate feedback, after trip, in-trip feedback. It's about evaluation that you do together with your drivers. And a very important part is the comparison. That we allow it so that drivers can be compared to each other and give companies the ability to do something with it, to incentivize the drivers. And we've implemented some of the learnings already from the project, how to do in-trip feedback, how to give what we call feedback forward. So actually posting advice is one of the things that we've been implementing. How to do pre-trip information, how to do post-trip. But we actually made that part of a bigger program for our customers. And I think one of all the results will be discussed in the next 2 days. What we feel, and when we get this feedback from our customers, there's certain percentage of effectiveness that you can create with each of these areas. And what we always say, and what we see, is that at the moment the customer introduces internally that they're going to do such a program, they already achieve 5% savings. And it sounds very stupid, but it's because people are not aware that that's important for them. Oh, it's important, I save fuel. Just by having that notion, people start changing their behavior rate. So that's the first 5%. Then you get into the whole program, education, training, feedback, etc. And indeed, depending on the traffic situation, on the areas where you are, mountainous, city areas, but you can get another 5 to 10%. Where the important part comes is actually with the comparison, where drivers start to compare each other, where you can give incentives, you can gain another 5 to 10%. I think that's a really important area, because in the end it's all about behavior and the motivation of drivers. And let me give one example of one of our customers that was one of the first on a large scale that introduced and implemented this product. It's a Scottish Gas in the UK. They have about, I think it's like 2,000 vehicles, and they've started rolling out this whole program throughout their company. And they also say it's not about, that's always I think, not about punishing or monitoring, controlling our drivers. We want to work with our employees to get this done better. And you see typically that they introduce incentives to the drivers to do things better. The best driver, they have competition between the different depots, which depot is doing best. Actually, and that all stimulates, it's almost like a gaming experience, the better drive behavior that we have. But of course, they don't just want to have a empathetic program for the drivers, they also want to get something back out of it. And they've, from their own experience, feeding back to us that they gain at least £1 million British pounds every year on introducing this program. And you see particularly in their own measurements, they have about 11% improvement on mileage per gallon, which I think is a really good start. It's maybe not an end game, but I think particularly for such a large company, it's already quite a good achievement. Okay. Comes already back one of the challenges. Why do they do this? And why are they motivated to get to these type of levels? In the end, it's also what he's saying. We save £1 million every year. In the end, companies, with all respect, they look at what they gain out of it and how much money they make. So how can we further motivate it while the drivers and the companies have certain motivations in doing it? And I think that's one of the key questions that needs to be addressed in any further discussions or research after this program. Just maybe to add something to it, money is a key driver for companies. Right? And what you see, and particularly this is a graph of the Brent oil price, and we've seen during the project, actually during the whole project, 4 years from now, we've seen this being great steadily, and we've seen also there people getting enthusiastic about the project. And then the oil price dropped, which I think from a business perspective, I mean, we need to be realistic. It gives a different perspective on how they behave in it, what they do, and how they want to improve their own business. I think we have a challenge to turn that around, not by increasing the oil price necessarily, but by giving them the right incentives, by giving them the right tools to further do that, and also giving their drivers and understand how drivers behave, how can we motivate them further to be a part of this society. I think that's a really important question, and it comes probably more back to behavioral science than real engineering or technology. Another challenge that we see is how we connect, in our case, as an aftermarket party to a vehicle. So we see a lot of technology developments, and we started with an OBD device, getting information, and even though OBD says it's a standard, there's a lot of, let's say, legacy around it, and not necessarily embraced by all car manufacturers. I think we have to accept that. I think we need to look at, okay, what are the right interfaces to build new applications for the car of the future. And we really started looking at that, still based on OBD, but also looking in the consumer space at different apps to stimulate consumers to drive better, to drive more safely. And this is something also we introduced last year. You can see a smiling car, also something typically coming from this project. And how you give feedback to your drivers. But I think the key question is, what's the API of the future to the vehicle, so that a lot of parties can build more, because it's not just about one customer or one driver, it's about a community of drivers that all work together. They all need to, let's say, see how they are being compared to others to get an overall level to improve. And see, this is how it started, and where we believe this is going. It's actually by connecting the cars, right? So the API of the future, I think, will be partially in the vehicle. That's something where we connect to, but it will also be partially in the cloud. Where you get into a cloud, you come also to new problems, new challenges. But I think what the interesting thing there is, you start being able to connect all cars. If you can do that, if you start doing that, you get to areas where you can compare what's happening. You can motivate much better. You can motivate individual drivers. You can motivate business customers in the end to further improve and achieve one of the things that we wanted to achieve with this particular project. Thank you very much. I hope you have a very great day, and I hope to speak to most of you next to that.